So it's now time to take a look at news stories making headlines around the globe. And we begin in St. Lucia, as President Bola Tinubu has formally announced the establishment of diplomatic relations between Nigeria and St. Lucia, describing the move as a symbolic bridge to foster closer ties between both countries. Addressing a special joint session of St. Lucia's Parliament, President Tinubu proposed visa waivers for diplomatic and official passport holders from the Organization of the Eastern Caribbean States and offered full scholarships to students from the region. He called for a joint commission to structure cooperation and invited OECS countries to explore trade and investment opportunities in Nigeria, Africa's largest market. State House correspondent Adeswa Omorowan reports.
It was more than a state visit. President Tinubu's address to the St. Lucian Parliament marked the beginning of formal diplomatic relations between Nigeria and the Eastern Caribbean.
In consideration of the strategic importance that my country attracts to OECS, we have formally established diplomatic relations with St. Lucia. This diplomatic move is a symbolic bridge that will provide a gateway in fostering ties between us. To further deepen our partnership, I recommend that our two parties initiate negotiations towards a formal agreement on a joint commission or political consultation, such as framework.
In front of lawmakers from across the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States region, the president proposed visa waivers for holders of diplomatic and official passports and a scholarship scheme for Caribbean students to study in Nigeria.
In a concrete step towards this goal, Nigeria is open to exploring a visa waiver arrangement for holders of diplomatic and official passports from OECS member states traveling to Nigeria. I respectfully urge a reciprocal gesture to enable smoother movement of officials and foster closer institutional cooperation. Furthermore, Nigeria is ready to extend the services of Nigeria Technical Aid Corps to OECS countries. Africa belongs to all of us. Today, to continue to promote that, I will establish full scholarship tuition for students of OECS.
The initiative was welcomed by St. Lucian officials, who described the visit as a moment of renewed unity between two regions historically linked by slavery and migration.
I extend our heartfelt gratitude for your historic address during your official visit. Your presence marked a profound moment in our shared journey, strengthening ties between Africa and the Caribbean, particularly in areas such as economic development, education, health, and infrastructure, will inspire a renewed commitment to collaboration.
St. Lucia is pleased to be standing at this important juncture with Nigeria by our side. But, Mr. President, I understand that St. Lucia, with a population of just over 180,000 people, is tiny compared to the mighty Nigeria, 300 million. St. Lucia's population is smaller than that of Eti-Osa, local government in Lagos State. And your long-term residence on Bordeaux Street. But, Mr. President, despite its size, St. Lucia stands proud as a sovereign nation with a heart and spirit deeply connected to the world, to Nigeria, and to West Africa.
Some statistics from an 1815 British census confirms that a third of St. Lucia's enslaved African-born population came from what is now Nigeria. President Tinubu also called for deeper trade, joint research on climate resilience and air connectivity to improve people-to-people links.
Enhance the trade and investment between our regions hold great potential for shared prosperity. Nigeria's vast mutual resources and its position as the largest market in Africa presents significant opportunity for the OECS, both as a source of essential input and as a growing export destination.
For a long time, the continent of Africa literally abandoned the Africans in diaspora, but I think that's changed. With you even now calling the Africans in diaspora the sixth African region. What Nigeria is doing today, what the president has done today, is to further broaden the bonds that bind all of us together.
President Tinubu announced that the scholarship program for students from the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States to study in Nigerian universities will commence in the next academic year. Adesua Omoruan, Arise News.
And now to politics. The leadership of the People's Democratic Party yesterday at its 100th National Executive Committee meeting unanimously reinstated Senator Samuel Anyanwu as a national secretary of the party. The reinstatement was disclosed by acting national chairman of the PDP, Umar Damagum, with the governor of Bauchi State, Bala Mohammed, beside him. Damagum said upon assumption, Anyanwu would write a letter notifying the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, of PDP's national convention. PDP Board of Trustees Chairman Adolphus Wabara insisted that this party will never die, no matter what her detractors feel. Wabara stated after the NEC meeting. Former Senate President Dr. Bukola Saraki also said in a statement after the NEC meeting, "No victor, no vanquished. PDP, Nigerian democracy won." End quote. Well, still with politics, the Labour Party standard bearer in the 2023 presidential election, Peter Obi, has again hinted his numerous supporters at home and abroad that he would likely contest the presidency in 2027 and would be willing to do one term in office. According to a statement by his media aide, Ibrahim Umar, Obi posted on his X handle his engagements with his supporters where provided answers to their concerns on topical national issues. He declared his intention to run for the presidency in 2027, stating, and I quote, "I have not joined in any form of discussion on joint tickets, including with Atiku." End quote. Obi, via his media aide, acknowledged being involved in coalition talks because of his desire to rescue Nigeria from the drift by aligning with all patriotic Nigerians. Obi urged Nigerians to see the need to rescue this country with him, saying, and I quote, "I will bring stability in Nigeria within 2 years in office. Leaders of Nigeria should sit down in Nigeria and fix Nigeria." End of quote. Several developments in the political landscape, especially after what started as rancor yesterday with the PDP, looks like it ended in a kumbaya moment.
Okay. I don't agree so. But at first, let me start with Peter Obi this morning. I mean, it's crystal clear. Many of the engagements we've had and the interview I also had with him, he's going to run. But the part I don't understand, and please, with due respect, I don't like when politicians overpromise. Saying you will bring stability to Nigeria in 2 years. What's the definition of Obi's stability? Is it that inflation numbers are going to drop to single digits? Is it that the healthcare system will be improved? Is it that the infrastructure system will be improved? I don't like all this political rhetoric. So I'm against Obi for that statement this morning. I will tell it to you. I don't care who you are. When politicians say they will bring stability, these are just all these their far-fetched promises. Let's be realistic with the challenges of Nigeria at hand as we are speaking today. I would like him to clarify that on stability. Is it fixing the exchange rate palaver we have? What is stability? Because everybody is just talking as if, they will come in there and things will change and everything. And please, like I tell people, I am for the progress of Nigeria. Any government in power, be it President Tinubu, be it or be any government, I will constantly be on their neck because I want my country to be better. I don't believe in politicians saying I will stabilize things in 2 years. I will, no. And some other things he said that I think about, if they make agreements about one, I think those are just, predictions here and there. But I would like to challenge him this morning. Provide your track, the path to this so-called stability in 2 years. Let's get empirical statistics to it. I don't just like when politicians talk. Secondly, St. Lucia. I'm even happy that the St. Lucian people know, and they confirm what we said yesterday, that it's about Etiosa. Etiosa is way bigger than the population. Aja is over 150,000. St. Lucia is 180,000. So they will be competing together. Me, I don't have problems with President Tinubu going to show Nigeria soft power. It's not today Nigeria is going to do the soft power outside. We'll give scholarships and everything. I remember even as a result of people that were caught in the war in some West African countries, Nigerian government then did go to give them scholarships. Some of them schooled in Nigeria. And we saw the impacts. And when you ask those people, they talk about Nigeria highly. But this morning, I'm going to go by the Yoruba principle of Falano Gbotie Tareni Lagbo. What it means is that pay attention to the matters that concern you. President Tinubu, you are going to give scholarship to students in St. Lucia. Students in public schools in the FCT have been at home since February. I mean, does that make sense? Does that make sense? We've not been able to resolve an impasse. The states of public schools in Nigeria, they're dying. They are being relegated to the background. And for Nigerians that like to compare, let me compare you with Rwanda today. While public schools are dying and there's a proliferation of private schools, people are leaving private schools in Rwanda because the condition of the public schools are getting better. But in the FCT, in your Korokoro doorstep, kids have been on strike, and you are going to St. Lucia to give scholarships. Why don't you call whoever is in charge and say, I don't like the way kids are, let them go back to school. You can do it. The buck stops with you. President Tinubu, you are the Alashe of Nigeria. And God has given you that power. We know that. So we're going to give in the spirit of soft power, diplomacy. I mean, I can talk all that diplomacy talk from here till tomorrow. Yes, Organization of Caribbean Nations. In fact, Professor Bolaji Akiyemi was saying, with all of these overtures, they might even support Nigeria if we need a place on the Security Council and all of that. We are trying to postulate the benefits of this. 1/3 of Nigerians were taken to St. Lucia in slavery. We can talk all of that speak. But I just went for the principle of Falano Gbotie Tareni Lagbo. Based on the PDP matter, I don't believe everything is well. There was another installment of the PDP Drama Olympics yesterday, where police came in. They said they were trying to prevent skirmishing between two factions. Who brought the police in? We are still asking that question till tomorrow. Finally, some members had to go to the Yaradua Center. Then they finally had neck. But the neck was after they had, begged and said, okay, the other faction that were saying, no, Kodesho should be there, and they had begged the other faction, and the other faction aired their views that it was because they didn't carry them along, that the Damagu faction didn't carry them. So they reached some sort of compromise. They said, okay, Anyanwu should be there, should write. In fact, people like Adolphus Wambara, chair of the BOT, was saying that Anyanwu should write an undertaking that he will not victimize people that were against him. They shall reach an agreement. And so when the likes of Dr. Saraki is coming out to say, yes, a victory for, which victory for democracy? It's a Pyrrhic victory because the southeastern factions are also saying that they don't want to have anything to do with the PDP because the PDP has betrayed them so many times. So a lot of people are still very disgruntled in the party. The party is still split down the middle. The drama ensued yesterday. They've postponed, they've pushed it up to the 23rd. They say they want to have another meeting and they want to convene around the convention. Only time will tell. And the real actors that are imploding the PDP, in fact, the Sun carried the story to this one, talking about the fact that some people are still going to defect from the PDP. The real actors that are imploding the PDP still take prominent position in the PDP. And that's why I want to quote my very good friend and brother this morning, Daniel Bwala. In his words, Kokorotinje fo, inu a follower. That's the problem of PDP today. So all of these victories that they are saying, oh, it's kumbaya and everything, it's kumbaya till the next installment of the drama. And please, like the likes of them, Chief Bode George blaming President Tinubu and blaming the opposition for their problem. No. There's also a Yoruba saying that says, "Eyinkule lotawa, ile la se ningbe." What it means is that the enemies are farther at the back. The person that hurts your prospect lives within you. So the PDP should look at its own internal problems and weed out. They can't say they don't know those that are pressing the button among their foes. Till today we are asking, who called the police into their debacle yesterday? The police said they didn't seal off anything. They were just coming to prevent a fight between two factions. Who made the police intervene? Who gave the orders? Because it was also reported that the police were calling and saying, effect the order. They bought 10 trucks, sealed off everywhere. So it's just another installment in their Drama Olympics.
Okay, let's start with St. Lucia. There is a principle in international law about the equality of states. Article 2 of the UN Charter, 1945, upholds very clearly the sovereign equality of states. So whether they have 180 people or 180,000 people in St. Lucia is totally beside the point. There's a country called Tuvalu. In Tuvalu, according to World Bank figures in 2023, they have a total of 9,186 persons living in Tuvalu. Tuvalu has only one road. It has only one major hotel. It has one airstrip they call an airport, but it's still a country. It has a seat at the United Nations. In other words, the principle of the sovereign equality of states does not refer to size, wealth, or economy. However, what you have seen, and which we decry, is that in terms of realpolitik, in geopolitics, certain countries like the United States, like China, consider themselves primary powers. But in this regard, I do not think that we can condemn President Bola Ahmed Tinubu going to St. Lucia because St. Lucia is not up to Etiosa, or as Mr. Peter Obi puts it, not up to Ajegunle. In fact, Mr. Peter Obi, in his own commentary, said, why is President Tinubu spending 10 days in St. Lucia when he has not spent a night in any of the other states of Nigeria? Now, that's that about that. In terms of objective, the Nigerian president in St. Lucia has said that the plan is to use St. Lucia as an entry point into the Organization of East Caribbean States. That's what the OECS means. And by extension, to get to the other 15 countries in the Caribbean under the auspices of what is called CARICOM. Budget, economic value over $130 billion. And what President Tinubu is doing is something in diplomacy called cultural diplomacy. And there's a class for it. There's a category like that. Citizen diplomacy. The cultural ties, the historical ties between St. Lucia and Nigeria or even West Africa. In fact, one of the members of parliament said most of them are from Nigeria originally or from Senegambia during the 19th century. And Nigerian music, literature, culture, Nollywood, all these categories are very popular in St. Lucia. I do not see anything wrong with cultural diplomacy, which is even, a tool of engagement that even the United States and China use. However, the point here is that with regard to scholarship, now the point to raise is that, look, charity should begin at home. Once upon a time in this country, there was a federal government scholarship scheme. I recall going for that interview session at least once. I wasn't lucky. But once upon a time in this country, Nigeria had an organized scholarship scheme. People were given National Merit Awards. Okay, I was a recipient of Nigeria's National Merit Award from 1981 to 1985 as a student at the University of Calabar. And they gave conditions to encourage excellence, to encourage brilliance. Now, Nigeria also at the time brought students from other parts of the world. There were students from Lesotho, from Swaziland, from South Africa, who were in the hostels with us at that time. Nigeria, using that tool of diplomacy again to encourage people. The only part that we did not like was that the students from Lesotho, Swaziland, and South Africa, They will get overexcited. They will be falling from the third floor in the hostels. And they were particularly interested in Nigerian girls. We didn't like that as Nigerians, that Nigeria was giving them money to come and enjoy themselves. But many of them graduated and they wanted to become important persons in their country. So in terms of the objectives, I will not say there's anything really wrong, in terms of, engagement with the diaspora. And President Tinubu addressed Parliament. And they formed what they call the Nigeria St. Lucia Joint Commission. And within the auspices of that, I believe that there's a lot that is positive that can be achieved. Next subject, Mr. Peter Obi. Mr. Peter Obi is restating his commitment to Nigeria. And he says that his commitment is to help fix Nigeria. Well, it's our expectation that somebody will be able to come one day and fix this country. And the details in terms of what Mr. Peter Obi is saying, I think we can all identify with it. He says he will reduce poverty. He will invest in social infrastructure. He will invest in education. He will empower people. And that his family will not be involved in any act of corruption if he's given the opportunity. And he says he's interested in the Nigerian presidency in 2027, not as an appendage to anybody, but as an independent candidate, in his own party. And talking about political party platform, he says, yes, he's involved in the coalition, but he wants to see Senator Nenadi Usman-led wing of the Labour Party to be the main wing of the party. Where we can depart from him, in my view, is when he says, oh, he will do only one term. That in fact, if the coalition or even the whatever platform can give him the position, after 2031, he will leave the position. Well, what we have seen is that it takes more than 4 years to fix Nigeria. Can he fix Nigeria between 2027 and 2031? What is likely to happen is that even if he achieves that dream, which is legitimate, anybody can say, I want to lead my country and set it right. He will discover that the mandate is not for him alone. The whole of the Southeast will stand up and say, they have finally recognized that Southeasterners are part of this arrangement called Nigeria. They will tell him, Peter Obi, you are not going to do one term. We go die here. That's how Nigeria is. They will tell you, a Southerner has done 8 years, a Northerner has done 8 years, Southeast will do 8 years. So if possible, they will say, let us review the Constitution. So in other words, the other issues, other factors that will come in will be about equity, will be about fairness, will be about justice. These are key issues at the heart of the national question in Nigeria. Third point, the PDP. Now, we know basically that the PDP is factionalized. Within the last 2-3 days, you have had a meeting of governors, you have had a meeting of something called the Expanded National Caucus, which is something that is totally unknown to the PDP constitution. You have had issues about venue, where they could meet. Now something called the NEC meeting met yesterday, but it was a NEC meeting that was operating under the albatross of the issue with INEC. INEC has said you cannot submit double signature when you call a meeting, referring to the point that there are two national secretaries of the party. You have on one hand Setonji Koshuedo. You have on the other hand Samuel Anyanwu, and all that unresolved issue about the interpretation of the Supreme Court ruling regarding whether it's Sunday Ude Okoye, who is the chosen candidate of the Southeast Caucus, or it should be Senator Samuel Anyanwu. Now that matter has not been resolved. And the Southeast Caucus and Dr. Chief Adolphus Wabara, Chairman BOT, he was part of the Southeast Caucus that said, look, the Southeast is being disregarded in this party. They have also not resolved that. However, what we hear is that there will be another a proper NEC meeting on July 23, which will prepare for the national convention of the party. What held yesterday was a single issue agenda meeting, namely who will be, national secretary. But it's a very fluid situation. But what is clear is that the PDP has not been able to learn any lessons in terms of how it organizes itself internally and democratically since the failure of 2015 and the failure of 2019 and 2023. So the party needs to put itself in order. Chief Olabode George has been in the media and he has been saying, well, things will be resolved. Other leaders of the party have said, oh, democracy will triumph at the end of the day. It remains to be seen because you cannot organize an opposition party if that opposition party itself is not living by the standards and values and ideals of democratic order.
Absolutely. I think it's also important to note, I'm going to connect the PDP with Peter Obi, that 2027 is in no way 2023. Why do I say this? The dynamics in the political landscape have shifted and they've done so drastically. I think PDP has become aware of that, so we see sort of these frantic efforts to try and create some sort of a reconciliation and united front. However, some might argue that the damage has already been done. You have governors who have already decamped to the ruling party, so the power that the PDP used to enjoy in the South-South as a bloc has now been eroded. There are questions around the Southeast and how the Southeast will react to this reinforcement of Samuel Anyanwu as the National Secretary, because as much as the communiques coming out are saying that it was a system of give and take, it was a compromise, no victor, no vanquished, the point that we cannot deter from is the fact that the Southeast insisted that Samuel Anyanwu is not their candidate and that they had someone else in mind. And the question is, how do you make them not walk away shortchanged from this? It seems like history repeats itself in the PDP because this issue of respecting the zoning decisions of each zone continues to resurface year in and year out. It was the straw that broke the camel's back in 2023, and it seems that it's going to continue breaking this camel's back until 2027. So that's the PDP. No real conclusive direction as to what the role of Atiku Abubakar is in all of this and what type of person or from which place in the country they would choose a presidential flag bearer from. However, it seems clear that they will not be partaking in any coalition, and it also seems clear that they have distanced themselves from Peter Obi. Of course, we knew that there was no chance of Peter Obi going back to PDP. But the question is Peter Obi being decisive enough with regards to communicating which ticket he's going to run on? Because some people are saying that there's a lot of time that's being wasted without clarity, without really knowing where Peter Obi stands and where he's going to plant and anchor his campaign in the run-up to 2027. Will it be the coalition? He made mention of trying to create some sort of order and restore order in the Labour Party. Will it be the Labour Party? Well, who knows? But the real issue that we need to ask ourselves here is the Peter Obi effect the same as it was 2 years ago? What have these 2 years in opposition done to the Peter Obi effect? If you remember when he came up as a third force, there was a novelty around it. There was an excitement and a euphoria around it. We question, does this euphoria still exist? The obedient movement, have they been able to continue the momentum that they started with so much excitement in the election? Now, what is the state of Peter Obi's structures as well? Because in 2023, one can argue that there was no incumbent. So the structures were up for anybody who was ready to motivate them in their favor. Because we know that there wasn't complete unity within the ruling party. However, in 2027, we know that the structures belong to the governors, not to the president, and the governors are gradually tilting towards the ruling party. Now, there's also the issue that as much as the official results say that Peter Obi came third in the election, there's dispute around what the real election results were. Has Peter Obi and his followers and those who work for him, have they done enough to advocate for electoral reform to prevent a recurrence of what they feel was an injustice that transpired to them in 2023? We're not really seeing any movement in that direction. He says he'll transform the country and stabilize things in 2 years. Well, these are very big, bold reforms, because when he sat down in an interview with Rufai Oseni, he was asked in specific detail, what would you have done differently? And many economists felt that his responses lacked in the type of detail that one would have liked to hear. with regards to the economic reforms and revolutions required to fully stabilize the Nigerian economy? Well, there's still 2 years to go, and the question is, can the Peter Obi effect stand the test of time? We'll be here to report it.